Are you feeling overwhelmed and stressed regarding your money and finances and wondering, am I ever going to be able to get ahead? Well, you're not alone, and I was personally right there with you, and you're doing everything right. You're working hard, you're showing up, you're providing income to your family, but no matter how much you grind, you still feel like you're falling behind, your bills are piling up, your debt continues to grow, and the feeling of stress and overwhelm never leaves. Well, to me, this isn't a motivation problem. You want to know what it is? It's actually a money and financial literacy problem, and the concern of feeling overwhelmed and not understanding how money and finance works hits on so many different levels. No one ever taught you the rules of the game and how to play, so how can you expect to win? And even for someone like me who has a degree in finance and economics, what you learn in school is more about business than it is personal. So I want to give you a little story here. I personally, at the end of the Great Recession in 2007, 8, 9, I was buried right there with you. I was drowning in $750,000 worth of debt. Yeah, you heard that correctly, $750,000. And now, years and years later of hard work, I'm a multi-millionaire. I have multiple income streams, and I'm on my way to my financial freedom number. And it wasn't just tricks. It was just strategy, hard work, and following a plan. So I want to give you a little more detail about how we got out of that $750,000 in debt. And it is not a typo. It was relatively quick how it happened to us over like a 3-year time period. And what happened was we started a real estate company. I was already selling real estate for like 10 years. So we started a real estate business in 2005. And then unfortunately for us, the Great Recession hit of 2007, 2008, and 2009. And when that happened, we weren't making a lot of money. Our agents weren't making a lot of money. We happened to be in a lease in an office building that was 10,000 square feet. And of course, over that time period, especially as we got closer to 2009, we were really starting to get hammered. So we had business loans, I had mortgages, I had bad leases, credit lines, credit card debt. And the weight and stress of that was something that I've never had a heart attack, but it made me feel like my chest was tight. And every time I got bank statements or looked at my banking apps, it was just freaking me out. And I'm telling you, slowly but surely, we started to dig our way out. So if you're in that current situation, again, you might be more in debt or less in debt, and you feel like you're never going to catch up, I want you to listen closely because I'm going to tell you how we escaped, how we did it, and how you can start right now. Whatever your debt number is, there is a way to get out of it, and it's just really putting a plan and making sure that you're doing all the right things. So when you start this process off, here's the common trap a lot of people fall into, especially young men. They think that financial literacy means we're going to budget better. We're going to figure out a way to sit down and really figure these things out. So whether you download an app or you're trying to figure out how do I cut back on coffee or eating out or just trying to save a few dollars, it's the real trap there. Is it budgeting better or just trying to figure out how to do it differently isn't going to really work. It's really trying to understand how money moves and how money works. And if you don't know what to do with a paycheck after we get it, that's going to be a huge problem. So what do? We try to figure out how are we going to make more and more money. And just because you make more money sometimes just gives you more problems because people now have the ability to go into more debt than they did before, and they just stay broke at a higher level. I talk to people all the time, and whether they're making 50 grand or 500 grand, I know lots of people that are still on that 9-to-5 grind. I know lots of people that are still broke, and they just get themselves into bigger, more high-end problems and even more debt. So let me give you a little perspective. And again, I am someone who is just trying to learn this along with you guys and spent the last 15 years really working on it. But what I did and how I got this process started was I started reading everything I could about money. I didn't just read books, but I started watching podcasts. I started, trying to learn from anyone that I could about how this all worked. And again, what I learned is that in college, when you learn about corporate money and finance, whether it's balance sheets or income statements or the way a lot of these spreadsheets work at work, it actually does have some carryover into your personal life. But the problem is what you see on social media a lot of times is get rich quick schemes and not real teaching you financial literacy. Sometimes I see some really horrible advice. And for most of us, not people that are already doing pretty well financially, I'm talking about everyday people that are trying to figure out how to get out of debt, how to get their life started so that you're having all these things work for you. And again, it's like, how do banks work? How does compound interest work? How taxes eat your paycheck? And for those of you that don't know, people that make, between $50 and let's say $500,000 or $600,000 or $700,000, those are people that are taxed the most comparatively. Wealthy people might actually pay more dollars of tax than you, but they're in a position where percentage-wise, they're paying dramatically less tax than you. And so it's how do we try to benefit from some of these tax incentives? And how wealthy people, they use the systems to protect and grow their money is the same stuff we can use for people that are lower income levels. So you just have to educate yourself. And hopefully a channel like mine where you can go watch some of the other videos will explain a lot of what we're talking about with this financial literacy. But again, everyone I know has to deal with money and finance, and there's a lot of other things you don't have to deal with. So just know you have to learn this stuff. It's very important. So this is when it hit me when I started doing a little more research into this stuff, because I actually knew quite a bit about it. I did a lot of great things in my 20s and 30s. And again, that Great Recession crushed me. But it's not about how hard you work or how many hours you put in at work, but it's how smartly you can make your money work for you. And so again, by doing all the right things and starting young and letting time and compounding work for you instead against you, that's how you will win. Because these high interest debts that people have by spending money on things they don't really need, that's where people get into a lot of trouble. If you're someone who's thinking about getting your financial journey started, do me a favor. Click the link in the description below. It'll give you a list of our top 11 things that you must do to get started on your financial journey. So I'm going to reveal some real truth to you. And the truth is brutal at first, but it will free you in the long term. And you're not behind because you're weak-minded or because you didn't try hard. You're behind because you just weren't taught. And again, I always have a spreadsheet that's got 11 items on there about basic financial literacy. And if you only did these tools, you'll get financially literate. We'll put it down below so you can get to it. But you need to use financial literacy as a tool. And it's something that everyone desperately needs to learn, because money, again, is not going to respect your effort and you're trying hard. I did that. It respects your strategy and how you want to make this thing work going forward. So how do you shift your mind? Once you shift from I need to make more money, which again will help if you can make more money and your mindset to do all this is correct, but you need to master the game of money, how everything changes. So you want to be able to stop reacting every time there's an emergency or something happens in your life. So now I got a problem, I got to go on a credit card, and start planning accordingly. We don't want to just survive. We want to start building. And the mindset shift that separates especially young men who struggle with money and finance from young ladies is to be able to plan for the future. And again, what happens is as young men, at least in my generation, and I think even my kids would say this, is that for men, the process is we're built a lot on making sure we can earn enough money to feed our family and be that provider. And I know in today's world, women are doing much more of that, and it's much more of a 50-50 world than it used to be. But again, for men, that's kind of the only thing. We're not really thinking about being a stay-home dad, and there's nothing wrong with being that. I know a few, and I know a lot of women who stay home. But again, you've got to be able to figure out a way to create that knowledge so that you know what you're doing, so that you feel good about having that plan put in place and understanding that mindset has to change. And I want you to just address the fear. Maybe you're thinking, like I was, I'm too deep in debt. I'm too old to start. There is no too old or too late or any of those things the time to start, but you have to learn this, because it's kind of like I tell people all the time. There's two things we don't learn a lot about in school, and it's about money and finance. And the other one I always joke about is like working out and nutrition, because these are two things. It's like you have to have money to function in this world, and you're not all of a sudden stop eating food. And so you have to understand how these work. So whether you get out of shape or in debt, you've got to get a plan put in place. And of course, the best time to learn this would have been if we started off learning it in elementary and middle and high school. But if you didn't learn it then, it's time to learn it now. And we need to get started on that process. And that's the whole point of what this channel is about. And a lot of what we're talking about, there's already videos for that I'd love for you to go check out. But let's get a plan in place. So this is the time to hit the reset button, not just for you, but for every generation that follows. So whether you can help your kids, or you can help your friends and family, or maybe your parents just didn't know how this whole thing worked, and you can help them too. And what we want to teach everybody this is the whole message, the core of what we're trying to teach about is here's how you're going to get ahead. We talk about these things in some other videos, but first off, and it sucks at first, I would love to say it's different, but it sucks at first, is you got to track. You got to know where every dollar is coming in and out. No different if you were trying to get healthy, and you got to know what every bite of food you're eating that comes in and out of your body, right? The second one, of course, is just building up some cash reserves. I hate the term emergency fund. It's just building up some cash so that when something does hit a bump in the road in your life, that you'll have that stuff there. You have to budget and not for the long term. And the whole point of the budget is not to make you feel guilty about every dollar you spend. And ideally, you're sitting down if there's another partner, another person in your life that you share your money and finances with. You got to be on the same page with this stuff, because if one person's trying to do all the right things and the other person isn't, the finance game is put together. If you do it on food and one person wants to eat horrible and one person wants to eat clean, I can be skinny and they can be unhealthy. And hey, that's on them. That, affects me a lot less than if our financial situation is terrible. So the next one is, and it's an absolute must has to happen, is you have to pay off the debt. I was sitting down with a gal the other day. She had a couple of credit cards. Interest rates were literally 30 and 31%, had a car loan at 17%. And you're never going to be able to win at that. So we've got to have a debt payment plan put in place. And the sooner you can invest early, start young, start small. It doesn't matter. You just have to start. And then, of course, we have to learn about how taxes work, how credit works, good and bad, and how interest and compounding long-term works. And these aren't just habits we want you to build. They're the foundation of all things financial literacy. And again, we'll put a link in the description below about my list of 11 things you must do. And those 11 things, if that's all you ever did, you will win the long game. Now, there are lots of other things we could do, and there's lots of other investments we could get into that once you build up these habits, we can have those conversations at a later date. But for now, we have to learn these basic fundamental principles. So this is what I want you to take away from today's video is this. Imagine just for a minute a life where you choose how to spend your time. You don't have to freak out if your car gets a flat tire or it breaks down or your kid breaks his arm and now you got $1,000 copay at a hospital. You just will feel so good when your kids can grow up without hearing, hey, I can't afford that. And instead of saying you can't afford that, now you're at a choice of, do I want to do this or not? Am I spoiling them too much or not? But it's all choices and it's not forced upon you as can I afford this or not? And again, this all starts with one decision at a time. You can't be financially blind. You got to start leading with literacy. You got to start learning all these principles. And again, the basic ones are not that hard because honestly, in today's world, here's the thing. The most dangerous thing, especially for a young person, can be because you have such a long time window that you can win no matter what your current situation is. You cannot be uneducated about money. You just can't. And I know it might sound hard and it might be hard because people are living paycheck to paycheck, but I promise you, if we sat down and looked at all your stuff, I guarantee you we can find some money. So what would I like you to do? My call to action for you on this particular video today would be this, is let's break the cycle. Let's figure out what one thing that we can do to get started on this. And to me, if it was me, what I would do is I would go back and track my last 30 days. Create what did I do last month and see what you did. And it didn't need to be perfect. What I want you to be is aware of what's coming in, what is going out, and how can we fix this? Because again, to me, financial literacy isn't a skill. It's something you need for survival. And the better you get at it, the more you're going to survive, the more you're going to thrive, the more you're going to get your financial literacy and your financial freedom number, not your retirement number, not any of those things. How do I get financially free as young as possible? So then it allows me to just make a whole lot better choices in my life.